समझ नहीं आ रहा अपने सैलरी इंक्रीमेंट का क्या करूं।
बेटा इतना क्या सोच रहा है? अपने म्यूचुअल फंड्स के एसआईपी का टॉपअप करा ले। दिस इज द राइट टाइम।
क्या? समझ में नहीं आया।
बेटा इतना क्या सोच रहा है? अपने म्यूचुअल फंड्स का एसआईपी टॉपअप करा ले। दिस इज द राइट टाइम।
अब समझा।
Mutual fund investments are subject to market risks. Read all scheme-related documents carefully.
Every once in a while, cut the clutter takes me out of my comfort zone. What is my comfort zone? It's politics, diplomacy, geopolitics, some stuff linked to economics, political economy, maybe even the corporate world to some extent. But technology, AI, that is completely alien. And I'm about as scared of that as I was of physics and math until class 10. When class 10 was over, I got rid of physics and math. Of course, I did botany, zoology, chemistry after that, but I was liberated. Similarly, technology, high-tech, and now AI. Those are areas I'm really scared of for the simple reason that I know too little about them. So if you don't have base knowledge, then you try to avoid those areas. However, sometimes you are left no choice. For today's calamity of having to talk about a company called Palantir that I knew nothing about, I have to blame, and you have to blame, my colleague and our news editor Janki Dave, who said that I should talk about this very interesting company. And while I tried to argue that maybe I should not, as I read up the stuff that she sent to me to read, very painstakingly, I figured that there is a story to tell. Now, Palantir is a company that I had no idea what it's about. I've seen Palantir stalls in Davos, its hoardings in Davos, and once in a while, I've thought that maybe I'll walk in and see what they do. But you know, there is also SAP. I don't know what they do, plus how does it matter to me. I don't even spend that much time in the Meta stall there because I don't know what is it that I can learn there. AI is a scary thing, so I did not do this. However, when I read up on Palantir now, then I realized that it's a story that is much beyond a technology story. It's a story of security, and defense, and where military science is going right now. So this company actually personifies, if a company was a person, this personifies the new revolution in military affairs. This is called RMA. One RMA had emerged about 25 years back. Then we've seen our Chief of Defense Staff saying that there is a new RMA is going on. This is in fact the RMA that has just now started, and all of the world will be catching up with this. That's the reason I got even more interested finally in this company called Palantir. Palantir was founded by a man called Peter Thiel, who's 57 years old. He's a whiz kid. He was an investor. He had a venture capital fund. He was a co-founder of PayPal, where Elon Musk was also involved. And anytime I walk past a Palantir signboard or a hoarding or a neon, I used to wonder, what is Palantir? Why is this company called Palantir? Now I realize, and I'm not familiar with Lord of the Rings, that Peter Thiel is a fan of Lord of the Rings, and he named Palantir after the all-seeing crystal balls from Tolkien series. So also his software and AI also are supposed to be all-seeing. Maybe Vladimir Putin can tell us more about that. At one point in his company, he also hired J.D. Vance, the current vice president. And when J.D. Vance contested for his campaign to be senator in Ohio, Peter Thiel contributed $15 million. That sets him in a place where we can relate better to him. He's also somebody who's seen very often in the White House, and not just him. A lot of his key people are also seen in White House, and many of them are now working either in White House or in Department of Defense with the Pentagon or the US military. His company has a very large chunk of US government contracts. Within 6 months of this year, 2025, his company already has more than $322 million of government contracts, and they are adding up all the time. Remember, US military spends a lot on software and technology. Last year, for example, they spent 58 billion with a B for Bombay. $58 billion just on software and technology. That is about 2/3 of all of India's defense budget. That is the kind of money that's gone into software from the Pentagon. He's looking for a bunch of that money because he's now embedded in the system. He and his co-founder Alex Karp are now fully embedded in the Trump White House system, and they're looking for more and more business. How successful is the company? Hold your breath. In the last 12 months, the company's stock has already jumped 600%. 600%. Wall Street Journal tells me, and I will give you a reference to that story, this is the most expensive share in S&P 500. Expensive means as a multiple of price earning. It is the most expensive share, and if it is so, there must be a reason for it. And the reason obviously is, you can say the simplistic way of looking at this is the company is the favorite of Donald Trump's and will get lots of government contracts. The important thing is the company is doing a lot of the work that is relevant to the kind of government Donald Trump wants to run and for the kind of needs that modern militaries have. A lot of the work that this company does now, heavily moving into AI, is related to defense, is related to situational awareness, it's related to collecting data for all these hundreds and thousands of satellites and other sensors and making sense of that for military commanders. Alex Karp even went to Ukraine in 2022, met Zelensky, brought in his software and his AI into Ukraine. A lot of the Ukrainian military systems now have Palantir technology and AI embedded inside them, and those are helping them fight the Russians. For example, if you had 10,000, a swarm of 10,000, if you had a swarm of 10,000 drones coming at you, if you are enabled by these systems, and I will tell you about the systems, if you are enabled by these systems, you can probably figure out which ones are armed, which ones are controlling this swarm, etc., etc., etc. That is how they empower the military on the ground. Now, how important is this, and how important is technology to the new militaries, modern militaries? That I will come to, except to just remind you that this company, the share price has gone up by 600% in a year, and even 3 days back, in one day, it went up by another 7.8%. So it's rising and rising. It's valued more than Walt Disney and American Express combined, and it has already been talked of in the same breath as the top 5, the famous top 5: Amazon, Facebook, which is Meta, Microsoft, Google, and Apple. Now, the new phenomenon in the Trump White House is all the tech bros, as they are called, sucking up to Donald Trump. We saw this happen just a couple of days back when Tim Cook of Apple brought in that 20-pound slab of 24-karat gold from Utah, the state of Utah, which is the Republican state, he said. On that, an Apple glass engraved with the Trump logo, right? It was a personal gift, feudal style, personal kiss my ass gift. That's an expression that Trump has now become universally acceptable because he uses it all the time. Just as Vidya Balan might have made the C word universally acceptable in her movie Ishqiya. That said, it also tells us that a man pushing 80, Trump, is besotted with technology. He's besotted with technology. He has now allowed crypto for pension funds. He's building an entirely new economy with crypto. To that extent, he's an insurgent as well, because he's promoting tech autonomy, and that's the reason the most important people in his life and in his government are tech people. How important are they? You can figure out from some of his appointments in his military. Now, US military, under Pentagon, US military is building an innovation core, because the new revolution in military affairs, or RMA, all militaries love acronyms. So the new RMA, maybe call it RMA 3.0. That depends on innovation, technology, and artificial intelligence. Trump has created an innovation core in his military. In that innovation core, you don't rise there through the rank. It's not as if somebody becomes a 2-star by the age of 50 or 3-star by the age of 55 or 4-star by the age of 60. It's not like that. It's non-hierarchical. Also, he's figured that if you want really smart people, one, they have to come in laterally. Two, you have to toss all idea that age and experience mean understanding or knowledge or stature. Nothing. And three, people don't have to be employed there to work for you. They can just be reserve officers. So he has appointed chief technology officers of 3 big tech companies as officers, commissioned officers in the Army Reserve, which means they are part of the army. They can keep on doing the work that they are doing, but they are part of the army as officers, which means they are also in terms of security clearances, etc. So they function as army officers. That's a system that works well in the US. These are parallel, lateral appointments. These people come in, don't disturb the armed forces hierarchy. So people he's appointed as reserve officers in the army are CTOs of three top tech companies in America. 3 top tech companies which are all working heavily in AI, making humongous investments in AI. So CTO of OpenAI, Kevin Weil, is now a reserve army officer. Meta CTO Andrew Bosworth is now a reserve army officer. And hold your breath, Shyam Shankar. Indian name, isn't it? Shyam Shankar, just 43. Shyam Shankar, Palantir CTO, is also a US Army Reserve officer, commissioned in June 2025. I tried to read up more on Shyam Shankar. Looks like I tried to read up more on Shyam Shankar. Not that much is available. He was born in Mumbai, and some research tells me that his father was born in a hut in Tamil Nadu and then became the first member of his family to go to college, and then the family shifted to Nigeria to start a business there. From Nigeria came into the US, again ran a small business, and from there Shyam Shankar grew at the age of 43 now. Not only is he the chief technology officer of such a hot firm, probably the hottest tech firm in America right now, but also an officer in the Army Reserve, playing a key role in upgrading technologies, particularly AI, for the US Armed Forces. This business of hiring people from tech companies at a parallel level extends to other areas as well. For example, Jacob Hellberg, also of Palantir, he has been appointed Under Secretary of State. This is a full-time appointment, so he's no longer working for Palantir now. He's been nominated Under Secretary of State for Economic Growth, Energy, and Environment. And then, because I've been telling you so much about how deeply embedded Palantir has now become in the security and defense structure in America, they are also creating a platform that will facilitate the mass deportation of quote-unquote illegal immigrants, because all this mass of data will come in, and this AI platform will then sort this out. In fact, the early developments by Palantir were also credited with having helped with Osama bin Laden manhunt, and it's sort of ironical or maybe poetic justice that Palantir was formed immediately in the aftermath of the 9/11 attacks. We are staying with security and human infrastructure in the Trump administration. So Gregory Barbaccia, just 40. He has now been appointed Federal CIO, Chief Information Officer, in the Executive Office of the President. What does it mean? It means that he will now lead US government's IT strategy. He was in Palantir. He's also from Palantir. Lateral entrant from Palantir. At Palantir, Barbaccia was the head of intelligence and investigations. He's now the US government's IT czar or IT strategy head at the White House. And then another little sidelight that's relevant, Palantir has also hired Mike Gallagher. Mike Gallagher was a young Republican congressman from Wisconsin. In August 2024, Palantir hired him as head of defense because that's where Palantir is getting its roti, dal, meat, chawal, fish, everything, right? Gallagher had been a member of the select committee that banned TikTok. And he has accordingly, in a tit for tat, has been sanctioned by the Chinese government as well. Peter Thiel's partner or co-founder is Alex Karp. Now, Alex Karp is somebody who speaks almost like Donald Trump. He's very aggressive, speaks almost like Donald Trump. And this company, as well as Thiel and Karp, are strong supporters of Israel. So after 7th of October 2023, they took a plane load of Palantir top staff, top people to Tel Aviv in solidarity. And when they faced a big pushback that their platforms or their software or their AI was being used by the Israeli military, and there was a lot of criticism, how did they respond? They decided to hold their next board meeting in Tel Aviv. So I will tell you a little bit more about Alex Karp. Alex Karp also is 57 like Peter Thiel. He has a PhD in neoclassical social theory and has actually built a big fan base for his messages, notes, whatever, on society, geopolitics, and most importantly, anti-woke agenda. However, in 2024, he was backing Kamala Harris and had also contributed to her campaign. Maybe that's because it looked like she was the front runner, because these guys will always be on the winning side. And once she did not win, then you cover all bases. If you have enough money, you can pay both sides. And in America, it's quite transparent as well. I can keep on going with this list. It's just that it's so relevant because one company and one new company, in fact, an upstart in the tech/software business, has got such deep roots in the Trump administration. I will share with you a story from the Wall Street Journal, how Palantir won over Washington and pushed its stock up 600% by Heather Somerville, Vera Bergengruen, and Joel Sheckman. And it says, it gives you an example of Alex Karp's style by saying in early 2023, he announced to his company that the company was launching a new AI product that was under development. None of the engineers in his company knew that there was any such product. But his method is that he knew that AI is going to be the next big thing. So he announced that there'll be a product. I've decided there'll be a product and the engineers will find a way of doing it. That's the kind of aggression that this company has. Palantir has also got a lot of criticism because their use of AI has been criticized as crossing the ethical boundaries, particularly as it works with military, intelligence, immigration, etc., probably with not enough disclosure. Karp fronts Palantir's response. He taunts his critics, he attacks the media, and just like Trump, rubbishes any criticism whatsoever. So there's a quote from him in the Wall Street Journal story. He says, "We are sorry that our haters are disappointed, but there are more quarters to be disappointed and we are working on that too." Doesn't it sound so much like Donald Trump? I don't know who's taking the cue from whom. And he goes on to say to his shareholders, stop talking to all the haters, they are suffering. How seriously Trump takes them. At an AI summit in Washington last month, Trump has been going to AI and crypto summits all the time. And I think that is something that the Indian side, our establishment being so conservative and so seniority obsessed, they've missed out on this big change in White House about crypto, technology, about tech autonomy and stuff like that. Whereas Trump pushing 80 has been going to all of them and pushing them almost as much as Ronald Reagan had pushed the free markets. At an AI summit in Washington last month, first of all, Trump happily celebrated all the tech leaders, and that included Shyam Shankar. And he said, looking at him, we buy a lot of things from Palantir. Finally, Palantir's power, fame, and presence is not confined to America or Israel. All of NATO has embraced it. So Palantir's Maven Smart System, MSS NATO it's called, it uses generative AI, machine learning and large language models, LLMs, to provide commanders with a secure common operational capability. US military uses its own version of the same Maven technology, which was extended with a $99.8 million 5-year contract last September. A similar system, I spoke to you about this earlier, a similar system has been implemented in Ukraine. And when did NATO acquire this technology? 14th of April this year. So all of this after Trump's inauguration. Finally, before I let you go, so we understand how different this company is, how different a phenomenon Palantir is. The Pentagon's original Project Maven system, that dates back to 2017. Then it was based on Google's technology, Google software. Google was working with them. Then Google faced a lot of backlash from thousands of its employees that why are you working with this system, with the Pentagon, with the military. So Google stepped away from it. Google is still an established old company. It is not an upstart anymore to take risks like this. However, Palantir has no such problem. That's the reason I'm persuaded or forced today to talk about this complex phenomenon to you in Kartak Letter.